gone for a couple of weeks, so we haven't been on. Sorry about that. But we are back, and we'll start the show officially in about 4 minutes. So just hang tight. I'm Alice Dada. George is behind the camera. He'll join us here in a second.
If you hear anything that you're not supposed to hear, just ignore it because it's not on Facebook at all. You know a secret that Facebook listeners don't know.
Yes, that's true.
Is that what's that called? When
exclusive. There, you got an exclusive.
An exclusive, yeah.
I guess.
Yes, yes.
So to do that, I was just learning some stuff from this digital journalist guru. So I would go to my settings when I open the our page, and it would tell me how it's set.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
I just don't want to put it over there because Sid's gonna come over here and I'll just have to unplug when he comes. I don't want him to trip over the wall.
Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, he's gonna have to.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say, text me.
Okay.
Here, cause door's locked.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we're
I
on
was
the
standing
intro.
out there. I'm like, it's hot out here.
It's hot out there.
Maybe she forgot about me.
No way.
What other way?
Man, I've been keep finding stuff. The show's gonna go so fast. But the last one that I saw, did you know that San Francisco Board of Supervisors, you can't say felon and inmate anymore? Did you see that?
But I can argue against that. Do you want to have the debate here? Would you like to have it on Facebook? Would you like to? Because I can.
We can tease it right now.
Yeah, we can tease it.
We'll talk about terminology and tone and words and how.
Tone is more important than terminology.
Well, the terminology in San Francisco is interesting, and it's everything San Francisco does recently is ridiculous. I think this adds to the ridiculousness of it, but there is another side of that I think we could support and agree on.
Okay.
And
Well, just to give you a little tease, so like instead of felon and inmate, it says one should use the term currently incarcerated person. So that is accurate, they're currently incarcerated if they're an inmate. And instead of juvenile offender, the person should be described as a young person impacted by the justice system. Again, factually correct. It's true.
It's factually correct.
We're
gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about
it's gonna be good. And I'll give you one more. So the term illegal alien, they scrubbed that and replaced it by person or individual. An addict or substance abuser can now be called a person with a history of substance abuse. To me, I don't see that much difference between substance abuser and that. But I don't know. That's sanitizing the language. And if you've got a little different take, it'll make it very, very interesting.
We're going to have fun.
I think we're just about ready to start, right? Okay. We're going to start at the Facebook. So go to your Facebook page and share this too. Right on. Okay, George. Ready? Woo! Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play the greatest Donald Trump song ever. This is the Chips and Salsa Show. And while George is getting here, this puppy is gonna walk for Trump. Our good friend, Ruben Obed. For Trump. Who am I gonna vote for? Chosen one, right? Chosen one. Oh, I'm getting people mad already.
Alrighty.
Woo! So, history on this, he wrote this back in 2016.
Wow. That's interesting. That long ago, huh?
Mm-hmm. Correct. This stuff is Let's do it. Martin, happy birthday, because I know you used to be dancing with us when we would play this. And if you want to go to YouTube, you can find Ruben Obed there. He's got a great Facebook page also. He's always working on new songs. He's our buddy from Puerto Rico. And one of these days, he told me he's going to come visit us. And I hope that happens. And he's going to be in studio and play for us. He's got this wonderful voice, great voice.
He's really good with the news out there now. He's
Yeah.
a noticiero in Puerto Rico. People listen to him now. Not only is he doing music, but he's reporting news. He's doing really good out there, and we'll be honored to have him on our show one of these when he comes to the States. Also, we'd like to thank Dr. Kelly Ward, Chairman Dr. Kelly Ward, for letting us use her spacious offices out here to record our program. A lot of listeners know that we're in the People's House, and we're so honored to be here. And we really thank our state chairman and the state director for allowing us to do our program here and bring our fantastic guest here at the People's House.
And we want to thank Mike Shaw, because this is actually his office they moved us into. And we're going to introduce our guest here in just a moment, Moses Sanchez. He's going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We also have Sid de la Fuente coming in. He's running a little bit late, but that's okay. He'll be here. He's with CALO, Conservative American Latino Organization. He's, I call him like a Cali political refugee, because he moved from California and he lives here in Arizona now. Strong conservative. Lots of us to talk about, but I do want to wish Martin Gonzalez a happy birthday. And he said it, so I can say his age because he said it on Facebook. He's 59 today. Woo!
59.
All right,
Viejito.
Martin. Martin.
You're younger than me, Martin.
He's your baby.
You're just a baby.
Right on. Okay. We're going to have our cocotazos and our whole enchilada. Also, when Mr. Sid comes, he's going to talk about this great event he's going to have. He's going to have Jesse Romero, and that's going to be on September 25th at the Painted Desert Montessori Academy. He'll talk all about that. It's at 6 in the evening. If you haven't seen or heard of Jesse Romero, we've had him on the show. Do you know Jesse, right? He's a Catholic evangelist. Man, he will set your world on fire.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's also the author. He's a great Republican conservative, fan of Trump. He wrote this book, Knocked Off the Donkey, Burro No More. And that's, like some of us, we were Democrats before, and then we figured it out, and we're not Democrats anymore, we're Republicans. I want to give a little plug to Stephen Richard, because he is running for Maricopa County Recorder. He's in my LD. He is a precinct committeeman, so if you'd like to support him, you can.
Great guy.
He really is. And then, of course, I've got a shirt on, if you notice it. And we have an election in Phoenix. And you might think, well, I don't live in Phoenix. Why do I care about that? You should care. Because you know what? Because if this thing doesn't go through, we're going to use a bunch of federal dollars. It's always about the
You got
money.
his shirt on? What's he wearing?
No, I've got, yes.
I got that.
I've got yes on Proposition 105. The election is August 27th. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute, too. Because you're so lucky. Moses knows a lot of the history on this initiative. Let's see what else. Terry Mendoza wanted me to let you know the Republican National Hispanic Assembly meeting. Normally that would be next week. We always have it the last Tuesday of the month. We're going dark for August, but we'll be back in September. And next week we're not going to have a Chips and Salsa show because I'm out of town and George wants to take the time off too.
I'm doing a family thing.
It's got family first, familia first. But starting September, we're going to be back rock and rolling again every Thursday evening at 6 p.m.
But I might do a solo from my Fallacious Studios in
You're
Tulsa.
fallacious? You mean fallacious? That means something else.
Yeah.
Ah, with a P.
Fallacious.
Oh,
Palace.
Fallacious. My
Not
Fallacious.
phallus.
My Fallacious Studios.
Wow.
So George's, you hadn't done one in a while, George.
In
We got one.
Waking up there? Did you catch that? Are you waking up?
Híjole.
Oh, híjole, that's right. Okay, good. Anything else you want to announce before we get started with the show?
Let me see. Trump is doing his thing. Trump is doing his thing, and
Hey,
a lot
Veteran
of people are crossing over.
Veteran
to,
thing.
to the,
They just did.
yeah. But a lot of people are crossing over to the Republican Party because the Democrats are losing it. They've already lost it, but they're losing it more. And they don't seem to understand what the people in this country want. We don't want to be socialists. We don't want to be handout. You know, I'm from a Latino family. We work for what we got, and all conservatives and even Democrats, they like to work for what they get. People don't want to always handouts. I mean, it sounds so tempting sometimes, but
That's the
Democrats-
American way.
yeah, that's the American way.
America.
I mean, that's
America.
America.
But I am so thrilled, and Moses Sanchez is a veteran of the Navy. And Trump, the last thing that I know about, and correct me if I got any of this wrong, but the loans, student loans for veterans are now going to be forgiven. Do I have that right?
I sure hope so. Because I have student
Well-
loans.
Or is it disabled vets?
I'm not certain on the details of it, but I saw it through Twitter, and that would be amazing. That would be incredible.
And you know, we owe our guys and gals everything. We really do. So that's like the least we can do. Instead of, you know, the left, the hard left is talking about, hey, let's get the illegal aliens in here and give them free health care and free. No, you know what? We have our own to take care of. And if we take care of our own first, we'll be stronger, and we're a very generous country. I don't like that. So right on.
That'd be amazing.
So I have a quick question about that, because if you're a veteran, then you can usually go to school on the GI loans and things like that, right?
So the GI Bill is different today than it was. So we don't call it the GI Bill anymore, even though it exists. So the GI Bill, today what they have is they call the post 9/11 GI Bill. Before 9/11 is the GI Bill. I was fortunate that I used the regular GI Bill from my college education, and then when I got deployed to Afghanistan, I qualified for the post 9/11 GI Bill, and I was able to pass that down to my daughter. So when she was in school, she was able to use the post 9/11 GI Bill. But yes, so the current GI Bill right now as it stands, and I'm going to use Phoenix as an example because we live in Phoenix, we're in Phoenix. The way the current 9/11 GI Bill works is that the government will pay for your college, your university, your community college. It could be a trade school as well. They'll pay for it, so they don't. The money doesn't go through the service member anymore.
Okay.
When I used the regular GI Bill back in the '90s, the money went to the service member. So I would get my check every month for $1,400 back in the day, and I could do whatever I want with that money. I could pay for school.
Kind of like the student loans are now. Okay.
Kind of, but the difference is today, and it's an amazing program today. Today, the government pays the university directly.
Correct. Okay.
And then on top of that, it gives the service member a cost of living allowance based on your zip code. So in Phoenix, it's roughly about $1,400. So if you're a service member who just got out, I know plenty of Army folks who just got out. They did their 4 years, they did their 5 years, they did their 6 years. They're starting ASU right now, and their ASU tuition is paid for. On top of that, they get a check for about $1,400 every single month for the next 2 years.
Okay.
And that's phenomenal.
That's to help them out with
That's
their expenses.
daily living
So
expenses.
they could get a little part-time job or something too still. Okay, good. I'm so glad you were here to explain that.
But the old one didn't have that cost of living. You would just get the check. So I got $25,000 for college, and they would break that down into $1,400 a month till I ran out of the 25 grand. The problem with the old one, and that's probably why the president is doing some of these actions, is people like myself, I would spend some of it on college, but most of it I spent on my living expenses. So I got student loans, and I'm paying my student loans off now. But yes, there are service members who have student loans, like myself, and there's a reason for that. It wasn't just, they didn't just use all their money and spend it on college.
Okay.
That's how you can get into that situation.
Okay, cool. It's so nice to have someone that knows what they're talking about. All right, so what I would like to do, I think first, if it's okay with you, Moses is such a wealth of knowledge. But since the big thing now is this election coming up, shall we go ahead and talk
Yeah,
about
let's talk about
Proposition 105? Okay, I know that if you've been following us, we've been talking about this a lot. and it's coming up. August 27th is the election. So right now, Phoenix, City of Phoenix, we do have light rail. And in fact, where I work, which is Park Central, would be considered Midtown Phoenix, and then you go downtown Central, there is light rail. And I will say that there is an argument for having it there because we have a lot of business. We have the university down there. We've got the ballpark, different venues, hospital, medical, educational, where you do need to move a lot of people up and down that way. However, now what they're planning to do is have an extended light rail that goes down to the southern part of Phoenix. They call it South Phoenix, South Mountain. That's where I live. And they want to do it. And Moses can explain this better than I can. But starting last year, people found out that, okay, cool, we're going to get light rail. That's kind of cool to people that like light rail. But you know what? They're only going to have one lane down each way instead of two lanes in each direction. So that was a big problem. And the merchants didn't like that, and a lot of people didn't like it, and it started a huge controversy. So that brought up an initiative. We had 40,000 people that signed that. Do you have that right about?
Correct.
And what this is doing now, if this passes, this initiative, if you vote yes on Proposition 105, that is going to basically kill the extension of the light rail south. Okay? We're still going to continue to have the other light rail and take care of it and everything. But that's what we're doing. So did I kind of explain that right? Did I leave anything out? You want to smooth it out?
Question. Isn't the one that goes near your office, isn't it one street? I thought it was just like one street when you're going
What
down
do you mean one
Central.
street?
When you're going down Central,
It's
No,
two
it-
lanes on each side,
because it only
and the
seems
light
like,
rail's in the middle.
like one lane when I'm driving down.
You have one. You
No,
have
it's 2 lanes
two
on Central
lanes.
north of McDowell. Yeah.
now. What they do have is the right lane is they have a. It's called the bicycle lane, but bikes and cars can also use that. But it's 2 lanes each way,
Good.
and they also have turning
It
lanes. in
seems like
addition to
one
that.
lane, 'cause, I don't know, just kind of.
Now there might be one little part where you are, but right where my office is, no, it's right across.
And
the-
Alex explained it really well that this really came out during the mayor's race last year. And during the mayor's
She
race,
ran for mayor.
I did run for mayor.
You ran for mayor.
Unsuccessfully, but it was South Phoenix, which votes heavily Democrat. It's not single-digit Democrats. You're talking about 20+ points advantage Democrats. Many of the residents along Central were really upset with the city moving forward and extending light rail on Central, but not the extension of light rail so much, but how they were extending it. And what they were doing is there's a 6-mile extension from Washington Street on Central all the way down to Baseline. And that right now there's 2 lanes northbound and 2 lanes southbound. And what the plan was to get rid of that middle lane. So it would only be 1 lane south and 1 lane north, and light rail would take up the middle there. And a lot of the business owners that you've heard from were upset because that would essentially destroy the traffic, the foot traffic coming into their businesses. And it could put them out. And the only people that were going to be able to survive that construction and that expansion are people with massive capital or franchises that have big businesses that would help support the downturn throughout that time frame. And so they were upset. Unfortunately, their city council member at the time wasn't very supportive or wasn't very easy to reach. And that person ended up becoming the next mayor.
She became mayor.
And light rail expansion
Let me just say
continued
something real quick. So we went to several community forums,
together.
which she attended, absolutely. She did not. I don't think she was
She-
one of them, was
no.
she?
No, because the community there was pretty upset with the promotion of light rail by members of their own party and their own leaders that they voted in. And unfortunately, the city continued to vote on it and pass it, and the extension was happening. And that's where 105 comes into play. 105 came into play mainly led by leaders within that community and leaders outside of that community through the rest of the city of Phoenix working together, which is, if you look at the dynamics of the people who are supporting 105, it's really unique. I mean, you have very far left-wing liberals and a lot of conservatives fighting for the same thing, and that's to end the expansion of light rail into South Phoenix to save a lot of those business owners and really end the wasteful dollars being spent on this expansion. And I find it interesting when I talk to people who are no on 105. They want public transportation in Phoenix. Every major city in America has a good form of public transportation of some sort. Subway. I think of BART. So I came from California. BART's amazing. But you know what? BART is along the freeways. It doesn't take up streets within your city. It goes along the freeway. The L train in Chicago is above
It's above.
ground, right? Light rail is technology from the 90s. And nobody in the 90s would have ever predicted Uber, Lyft, right? And
Self-driving cars.
and so now you have light rail, the cost of light rail have exploded to around $240 million a mile. And when you say that number to the supporters of no on 105, the first thing they'll say is, well, Phoenicians aren't paying for the whole thing. And when I hear that, I immediately think of of millennials who are okay with spending dollars as long as they're not paying for it. And I think that's irresponsible. It doesn't matter who's paying for it or who's not paying for it. $240 million, you can't defend that. Well, somebody else is paying for it. That's not a defense for it.
And even to take it a little bit further, if it's Fed dollars, guess what? We're all paying for it. It's so you may think you're not paying for it, but Fed dollars are still paying for it. Oh my goodness.
It's
gracious.
unjustifiable, but they justify it anyways, and it's ridiculous. And so, unfortunately, the no on 105 is heavily funded by special interest groups, and the yes on 105 can't compete when it comes to funding. So it's really up to the grassroots community. It's up to South Phoenix to make a stand, and hopefully the rest of the city of Phoenix will line up behind South Phoenix.
Well, I'm hopeful, and one of the things that we heard at those community forums were the actual people that would ride light rail. I remember the young girls that got up and they said, and it's not like we want a good public transportation system. They testified, I'll say, that they wanted to ride buses because a light rail is very large and they were accosted on the light rail. They didn't feel safe. Now, I have seen there are some security, ironically, now
Yeah.
you will see security.
It's
here and
improved.
there. But the other part of it, and I don't know why they don't, maybe you can answer this question, but you can sneak on the light rail. You don't have to necessarily pay. You can sneak on. So sometimes an unwanted person is on the light rail. I'll just call that. Now we're talking about, calling people
Yes.
different things.
But when it comes to public transportation, and I think your viewers need to understand, the city of Phoenix, specifically South Phoenix, has a unique demographic. The
Yes.
majority of people in South Phoenix use buses more than any part of Valley Metro area. They use buses more than anywhere, more than Arcadia, more than Sunny Slope, more than Awatuki, which I think we barely have one
I was
bus.
gonna say, do you have any buses?
Yeah, and they phased out the Alex bus. But South Phoenix relies on buses. And when you talk to when we went to these forums, they would say, double the bus routes.
Yeah.
Give us the new air-conditioned buses with Wi-Fi on it because they're available. And they would say, how about shade? Just some basic shade structures. You can still drive anywhere in Phoenix right now when it's 108 degrees, and you will see people standing by a tree by the bus stop. Not at the bus stop, but by the bus stop. That is a disgrace. Our city can do better. You're going to spend $240 million per mile on light rail. How about just spend $50 on a shady spot at the bus stop?
And Moses, correct me if I'm wrong, but even along the light rail, there will still be buses because there's still a need for buses. So all that will still need to be improved. Now, I take Central, okay, so I speak from experience. I take it all the way. If you live in Phoenix, you know what I'm talking about. Dobbins, which is at the base of South Mountain, and I drive all the way to Park Central. And I cannot imagine having one lane. And if I've got to be in one lane, plus it's going to go down to 30 miles an hour. Okay,
Traffic
so
is already tough.
there's 2 school zones that I've got to pass through. If I'm behind in the right lane in one bus, the problem also too is emergency vehicles. How
Yeah,
are
that's
they
a problem
gonna
that they haven't figured out yet, that they haven't answered, because if something serious happens there on Central, how does an emergency vehicle get from point A to point B? And the other thing that I think people need to understand with light rail and we keep calling it light rail, and it sounds really fancy. But I'm from the Bay Area. Light rail is just a really expensive trolley. We are paying for a really expensive trolley. This is not new technology. The light rail system can't magically change its routes given any serious emergency situations. Buses can. And you'll see buses will change their routes depending on whatever's happening. Some serious event occurs, buses will change routes. Construction happens, buses will change routes. But light rail is really an expensive trolley, 1990s technology at $240 million per mile. It's for me, it's not justifiable. But the other side will justify it and say somebody else is spending 2/3 of the dollars for it, so it makes it okay.
So, I also had another experience. I was stopped in the Park Central area, and we had emergency vehicle. So let's see, I was at McDowell, and they were crossing McDowell. Hi, Sid. Sid's gonna just come in. He's gonna sneak in there, and we'll have him in here in just a moment.
Oh, okay.
And just come on in here and join us.
Okay.
And I'll introduce him in just a moment. So I was stopped at the red light, and the emergency vehicle was continuing east on McDowell, okay? And he was going slow, because you're going through a major intersection, okay? We were all stopped at the red light. Well, the light rail was coming south, and I thought, I wonder how fast they can stop. And it just made me think that the guy was probably even approaching slower. I don't know enough about emergency vehicles or anything like that. But I really hope, I want to encourage you guys, first of all, vote. Because also our votership, I think the last election, only 20% of the voters showed up, which is pathetic.
Fortunately, right now, for this special election in the city of Phoenix, it is much higher than anticipated. And so that's a good thing. So we want people voting, but we also want people to vote educated.
Yes.
Read the ballot, read the initiative. Don't fall for the gimmicks and the advertisements that are out there. Just read the initiative. You'll see it's written out for you there, and make the smart decision.
Right. Okay, anything else we have left to say before we move on? I'm gonna keep wearing my shirt the whole show. Because you know where I stand. And I vote election day. And I'm gonna say just one thing about that too. I know a lot of people, I think I heard is 85% of the people now.
Single digits vote on election day now.
Wow.
I vote on election day as well. So I get the advertisements all the way to the end.
Yeah, because I always think, what if something happens at the very end to change my mind? I want to get full benefit. I don't want to be disenfranchised on information. So, do what you want, but if you have your ballot right now, we just want to remind you, and you haven't mailed it, take it, turn it into the proper place, or go election day and turn it in there, okay? Because if you mail it today or tomorrow and it doesn't get in on time, they're not going to be able to count.
Don't mail it. Don't
So,
mail it.
don't mail it.
You can actually drop it off early too.
Yeah.
There's polling stations right now that you can go to and drop off your ballot and get your little I voted sticker.
And we'll try to put information on, but you can always go to the City of Phoenix website, go to their election section, and they'll have all of that on there. All right, we're going to talk a little bit specifically with Moses, and then we're going to bring Sid on. If you saw Sid in the corner there, Sid de la Puente, as I told you, he's with CALO, Conservative American Latino Organization. And what I want to talk to you, though, is want to get an update on your Phoenix narrative.
Yes, please.
Tell us what's going on with that, man.
Phoenix Narrative. Make sure you check it out. Google Phoenix Narrative. You can go to phoenixnarrative.com. It's my journey as a digital journalist.
I can't name.
Okay. So Phoenix Narrative, as you may already know, is just I met a lot of people when I ran for mayor, and a lot of these folks are experts in their industries throughout the city of Phoenix, and they're actually out there providing solutions to a lot of the local problems we face. And I decided that it was important to hear their voice more and get some more solutions to issues that we face on the business community, health and wellness, in the arts, and really in the nonprofit sector. So we've tackled opioids, addiction medicine, we've tackled homelessness, we've tackled healthcare among homelessness, we've done some fine arts, and we've had some great artists who come up, some independent artists. And the most recent topic that we talked about, that I interviewed, was the president of the Arizona Federation of Food Banks. And it was amazing to hear some of the statistics and some of the numbers of how many people in Phoenix are suffering, in Arizona really, but in Phoenix specifically, suffering from what they call food insecurity. That's the term that they're using. We don't use hunger or starvation. When we think of that, we think of third world countries. We think of somebody dying from food. Here we call it food insecurity, and you'd be surprised some of the numbers. Like 1 in 4 children in Phoenix suffer from food insecurity.
That blows my mind. In this very successful city of the thriving, vibrant economy, and then especially you want to, I used to work at the schools back in the 90s, and even back then they were doing the free lunches and the free breakfasts and things like that. It blows my mind, but you were educating me before we started the show. So educate our audience, because get ready to get your mind blown.
Well, I've physically been in school districts, in elementary school districts, where I've seen students come in for their free breakfast. And they come through the line, and after they're done eating, they go back and ask for seconds very politely. And I'm watching this and observing this. And as they're getting their seconds, they would stash their food. And then they would do it again at lunch. They'd scarf down their lunch, and they'd come back for seconds, and they would stash their lunch. And I never really thought about it until I had this interview, which you can read at phoenixnarrative.com, where a lot of these students, and we're talking about elementary, this is K through 8. I'm not even going into the high schools. K through 8, their only meals are at school, where they go home and for whatever reason, because the parent is not around, an absent parent, but for whatever reason, they're not receiving a meal at home. Their only meals are breakfast and lunch at school. Wow. And the impact that that has on our student population is something we can't calculate, but it's significant.
And they allow them to cook for seconds.
Well, they do, at least the school I was at. I'm sure that some schools are a little more strict about how many you're supposed to feed, because this is public funding for Title I schools. But I was mentioning earlier how, to make it relatable to us, we have a spouse, a friend, a significant other. Heck, Snickers had commercials about satisfying your hunger. And you heard the term hangry, which you can look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary. You don't like working with a hangry person. You don't like hanging out with a hangry individual. Now imagine a 4th grader who's hangry. How does that 4th grader act in class? And in a class of 25 people, when you have 8 kids who are hangry, do you think that's a viable learning environment?
It's so bad on so many levels, plus a growing kid, right? You're growing, you've seen a teenage boy, okay? They eat a lot. Teenagers, period, eat a lot. They need to eat.
So food insecurity is real here. Poverty in Phoenix is real. It's something that needs to be addressed. It's something that has been often overlooked and ignored. And we address that on Phoenix Narrative. So we've had a really good time. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed. It costs nothing to subscribe. There are no ads at all on the website, and we really appreciate your input and the stories that a lot of these stories have been given to us by readers who are saying, hey, you should talk to this person about this, and I reach out, and they're very welcoming, and they sit down with the interview, and we go through the process.
And how do you get in touch with the narrative again?
Just Phoenix Narrative. Phoenix, you can Google Phoenix Narrative. We're right there at the very top, and the second and the third, you can go to the website, phoenixnarrative.com, and contact us through there.
It's great. It comes to your email, and you can read all of that.
It's amazing how you can run for mayor and come back with a program that you just initiated and is growing. Same thing with Jana Jackson. She ran for a superintendent. She didn't win, but she started the foundation. These are people that run, they make promises, and they actually do to help the community. He didn't become mayor, but maybe this was the destiny for him to start this, because Moses, I have to congratulate you. This program is good for the community. It's good for people to air out their feelings and to come and give you information to where you could take that to the listeners. And this is great.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share that with your listeners.
And thank you for what you're doing. I think
It
it's
is.
great.
It's information and education that we need. And so he's doing like, I'll be thinking about, oh, what about the homeless? I wonder. He's finding out the relevant information for you. And we could talk about homeless a little bit too. Let's see, how are we doing on time,
Have you
George?
been
Good, okay.
Have you been out in the street? I mean, to the homeless neighborhood and talked to some of the people there?
I have. I did that a lot while I was running for mayor. I think one of the things that I shared with Alice earlier before we went live was one of the most startling statistics that I found was in an interview with an organization called Street Medicine Phoenix. And you can go to their website, streetmedicinephoenix.com. You can Google them, Street Medicine Phoenix. And they're an actual organization through the University of Arizona College of Medicine, which is right here in downtown Phoenix. And it's a bunch of medical students who got together and they actually go out and provide healthcare needs, okay, not on the taxpayer's dime. Most of these organizations don't do it on the taxpayer's dime. Some of them, like Phoenix Rescue Mission, don't accept public funding at all. And they don't want any strings attached, which is just
That's good.
amazing. But street medicine, one of the numbers that that was just blown away is homelessness. 40% of the homeless population is employed. I heard that and I could have fallen out of my chair. 40%. And when you start diving deeper into the numbers, you start finding a lot of women who are homeless due to domestic violence, a domestic situation. They're still employed. And when you think of homeless, you think of the person who's living on the sidewalk, who's sleeping on the sidewalk. But you never think of the person who's living in the motel or from one motel to another motel to another motel to another motel, but they have a job, right? They can only afford to pay for these motels or long-term hotels, or the person living in a car. I mean, that is very, very common for someone to be living in their car because that's all they can afford due to unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, it's incredible. I never knew that. I wouldn't think that because, like you say, I think, oh, a homeless person, they're on the street and they're messed up on drugs, most of them, things like that. Incredible stuff. All right, we're gonna bring Sid on to talk, but you stay here too because we're gonna talk politics and all that good stuff. Because, and I just want to remind people, this is the first time you've tuned into our show. Thank you, first of all, Chipsters, for doing that. Whatever you like, or you can do that. And the reason we exist is because we're here to bust the myth. Just because you're a Latino, you're not necessarily a Democrat. We were Democrats before, now we're Republicans. So
We's a lot of people.
Yeah.
We's a lot of people.
We's a lot of people.
Okay, we's a lot of, I was never a Democrat.
And you were never. And you know what? There's more and more people that we are like, no, I was never.
We's a lot of people.
He was, I was, and Sid
Yes.
Sid was a Democrat before.
Yeah. Yes, I
So
was.
you want to come over here, Sid?
Yeah, just put 'em on.
Okay, okay.
So
I'll
we're
go
gonna
over
bring
here.
Sid de la Fuente,
How
who
you
used
doing?
to be a Democrat, used to live in Cali. George used to live in Cali as well.
I used to live in Cali.
It's the kind of old.
I used to live in New Mexico.
Cali,
Northern
Cali.
California.
Northern California.
And California used to be
Union
so
City.
beautiful.
Union City?
Fremont,
Fremont.
Hayward, Pleasanton,
Ah.
Pleasanton,
East
sure.
Bay.
Yeah.
So I hope you people from Cali that are watching,
Fresno.
I have a lot of cousins and family in Cali. I'm trying to get the conservative ones to move over here. So welcome,
Thank you.
Sid de la
How's it doing?
Fuente. It's been a while.
Been a long while.
See that? Conservative American Latino Organization, CALO.
How's it doing? Hello.
So also a veteran. I got two veterans here. Woohoo! Yeah, baby.
Okay.
And you're a Marine, right? You're a
Marine.
Marine.
I was a
You
Marine. I
came
was a
here,
Marine.
right on. You wanted to tell us about a special event you're gonna have.
A special event, yes, on the 25th. We're going to have Jesse Ramon. I don't want to screw this up, so let me get
Jesse's
this right.
amazing.
I have a little
Jesse
thing
is
here.
the- Do you?
Evangelist.
Good, okay. Yes, this is what I have also.
He's fantastic too.
Jesse is fantastic.
We've had him on the
okay,
show. He's
Jesse, if you can go also, I'm going to plug out to him because I listen to it when I can. He is on him and
Jesse and Terry.
Terry and Jesse show,
Also.
and then Jesse 911. There's Jesus 911, and it's all on the app of Virgin Most Powerful Radio. I advise everybody to go take a look at it, listen to it. It's real good. Jesse has a way, and Terry, whether you listen to their show, but Jesse has a way of talking and bringing out everything that. It's hard to explain, but he just has a way of.
Well, first of all, as Catholics, you usually don't think about Catholic evangelists, right? It's like, where's the word quiet, right?
Well, I saw him speak at the Phoenix Men's Conference.
Yes.
The Catholic Men's Conference a few years ago.
Wow.
On fire,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, on fire.
He was a sheriff deputy in the Los Angeles area. He's been on our show. In fact, you know what? Facebook shut off the show. What? I can't remember if he was talking about abortion or the cartels or something, but they actually cut us off. Yeah. They cut us off the show. But do not miss this.
This the 25th. We're going to have it up in. It's going to be out in Buckeye. I got him to come out, and Jesse, the same passion that he's committed to being, like I say here, a 3-time World Police Olympics boxing champion, a former U.S. middleweight kickboxing champion, and a retired veteran of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department. He is one that he has a new book out too. He just made a new book, and he's out. And he'll hopefully have some at this event. He will have all his books out there.
Autographs and for
And he'll autograph. He has his new book, and I had it with him, but I forgot to bring it. But he has a new book out, and it is one that is, from what I hear, it is amazing. Again, with what he's written, I believe it has to do with some of his. When he was a police officer, when he was the sheriff out there with the sheriff. I believe that's the last I heard about that.
Is this it?
That's it?
The Devil in the City of Angels. My Encounters with the Diabolical.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, when he was on our show the last time, he was talking about how the drug cartels, some of them, they take the drug shipments and they satanically bless them. I'm going to say that because I know how else to say that.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to blow your mind.
I know. Well, what blew my mind is Jesse has a way, because we're Catholics. And when Catholics, we really, like you say, we don't evangelize a lot. We don't go out and evangelize, and we don't go out and really preach the good word like we should.
On the quiet side of that.
Yeah, we're more on the quiet side, and
except for.
So, and we do that, and I'm learning not to be that way either. Yes. More quiet. And all our welcome. And he has a way of when I heard him. And I heard one of his programs with him and Terry, and then when he was coming on, he has a way of putting church and politics in a manner that is, hey, that sounds conservative.
You will not be bored.
That sounds conservative. What he says is excitable. And then what he's teaching is like, that really sounds conservative. That really sounds Republican. And, and there was something that was really, that just opened my eyes. And I said, I have to, because I had to get a hold of him. I had to set up something with him, because that is what Gallo is all about also. Gallo is all about, in my presentation, I think in my presentation, I specifically say that as an organization, we're not going to hide who we are. We're not going to hide our religious beliefs behind, quote unquote, an organization of Gallo. No, we're going to show our beliefs. We're going to show who we are. As an organization, we're going to show our beliefs. We're going to show what we stand for. We're going to really show what is going Latino, conservative, American Latino is all about. We're really going to show it. We're a caring organization. The organization is also starting up. We're starting up getting that together as far as giving a hand, not only a hand out, but a hand up. Okay. With helping, getting everything, organizations. I'll be talking with you. We'll be talking.
Connect together.
And because it's as Republicans and conservatives, especially Latinos, we have, as Latinos, we have a kind heart. We do. We always, that's why sometimes we're always quiet, but we always have a kind heart. We have a heart that is out to show that we care. And religious wise, that's why we have big families, So, but with that note, yet we still kind of vote liberal. We still kind of vote. And I say that because I was in that boat. I thought that Democrats had everything for it, but then honestly, I listened to Jesse, And he put it in a way like, how can you be that way? How can you really vote for a Democrat when your values, your Catholic values, doesn't really go with the Democrat Party?
It's so natural.
It's so
Pro-life,
pro-life, yeah. And
traditional values.
it's traditional values, and it's so. And I think we have a way. If we go and understand, like Jesse has, like I said, he has a way of bringing this out, and not only to a lot of people to make them think a little bit more, a little bit with our values as Latinos, as Hispanics, with our values that
You
we
know what
can
else?
that we can vote with our values. Let's put it this way.
I also want to encourage you because maybe you say, oh, what I want to go see this guy. He really likes to debate. If you want to come and ask questions, maybe you have questions.
Mhm.
Maybe you left the Catholic Church and want to challenge him. That's all right, because he's on fire, and you can YouTube him.
Yeah,
There's some
He's on
great
fire.
stuff out
he's
there.
on. He's
So I
on.
invite you, just come and you can learn more about Carlo and you can learn more about Jesse. I want you to
I
give
mean,
us an update on what's going on with Carlo, because we only have 20 minutes.
What's
or
going
so.
on with Carlo? We had our last meeting. We had a good little turnout. We had about 8 people, 10 people.
I'm sorry I couldn't make
Hey,
it.
no problem. But it's going. As far as one person can do right now, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going on.
When's your next meeting?
Our next meeting, we have this on the 20th. We're gonna have this. This will be our meeting with Jesse. It's gonna be our
It's going to be
meeting.
the next official
That's
meeting?
gonna be
So
a
it's
next
an
official.
event and a meeting.
It's an event and a meeting.
Cool.
So we're gonna have that together, but it's gonna be mostly Jesse talking. I've laid out 3 hours, and probably most of the time, more than half of that is gonna be Jesse. I plan to have it just nothing but him to speak out
Excellent.
because he's on fire and he has a way that people need to listen up, and they really get something out of it. I'm hoping and I'm praying.
Where's it going to be at?
It is going to be out in Painted Desert Montessori Academy out in Buckeye. And it's at 2400 South 257th Avenue. It's going to be from 6 to 9. But if you can get a hold of me, my number is 623-312-7054, or you can email me at Olan. Well, no, don't use that one. Use the Carlo one. I got a Carlo one now. It's Get Carlo, GETCALO 2018 at gmail.com.
That is an easier one.
That is an easier one, yeah. So you can get a hold of me. If you want to go, please call me, email me. There's limited space. So if I had to, maybe we can have one. I got 3 hours. So if we have 1 hour show to an hour and a half show, and then another hour and a half show, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll try to accommodate.
So make your RSVPs as soon as you can.
Make it RSVP as soon as you can. I appreciate it's going to be great. It's going to be outstanding. Jesse's going to be outstanding. Those of you who have heard him, I've heard him at my church up at St. Henry's Catholic Church out in Buckeye, and I'll put a plug out for our church out there too, because Father Billy is one to be. When he gives a homily, he gives a homily. He really gives a homily. So he's out there good. And Father Wright, same way. They're both great priests. So St. Henry's, he came and see our men's group, the men's group out there. I came to hear him, and I've also seen Jesse way a long time before in California, where he came to church there at St. Mary's.
He used to live in California.
So he used to live, and now he lives in Arizona. So it's going to be great. It's going to be outstanding. The only thing I can say is thank God it's happening. It was something that I think that God put together that I was looking for someone to put politics and church, because they do kind of go hand in hand. And Jesse's the type of person that really can do that.
And you got lucky because this guy is busy.
Yeah.
He travels.
He's amazing.
I mean, for us to get him on the show, we usually have to do it like 2 or 3 months. I email Anita, okay, tell me when you're going to be in town so you can be on there. So
That's
really, try not to miss Jesse. If I can go, I'm going to be there.
Yeah,
George, everybody.
if you can go, because you do not, like Alice says, you do not want to miss Jesse. Jesse is one of the Catholic, non-Catholic, left the church.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Just come.
What's the
Just
date again?
It is September 25th. It's on September 25th. It's on a Wednesday. It's during the week. Yes, it is, but you won't regret it. You might go home a little late, and maybe have a little hard time getting up in the morning, but you won't regret it. Believe me,
You won't.
You won't regret it.
You will be inspired.
You will be inspired. You'll be inspired.
And bring your friends. Tell your friends about it. And go on YouTube, Google him, whatever. And so you probably say, yeah. No, go on YouTube and then you'll say, wow, they're right.
Right. And then he has his own blog too, and his own, you can see it off of, it's jesseromero.com on his website. You get it off his website.
Facebook. He's on
Facebook, YouTube. His show, the
Terry and Jesse show.
Yes.
I always want to say Jesse and Terry.
Jesse and Terry, they have, as they do the show also, they also do, they live also on YouTube. So it's
just like we're doing now.
Yeah, just like we're doing now.
By the way, I'm glad you said that because if you're watching us on Facebook and you missed part of this, you can always watch again, or you can go to YouTube and watch this. We'll put the link on Facebook as well.
Correct.
All right, so that's awesome, wonderful. Any other update before we talk some politics?
Nope, we're good to go.
So good
to see you. Just try to keep busy.
You know, these guys kind of have an open invitation. Just tell them if you want to come, just come whenever. It's
I'm
all
here.
good.
We're here.
We're so happy. So I collected quite a few things, man. I don't even know where to start. I got like, okay, so cocotazos and whole enchiladas. George always likes to explain the cocotazos. A whole enchilada is, you know, we want to highlight good stuff here. So when somebody does something really cool, if you go to our Facebook site, Chips and Salsa Show, we'll put like, oh, this is a whole enchilada thing. Like one was a little 2-year-old, and she did the pledge. It was adorable. We also had, today, this was a brand new one. It was a grandpa, and he went, and I think he went and saluted. It was his granddaughter who had just become a staff sergeant or something, and that was very, very cool. Oh, also there was a headline, there was a good guy with a gun and he distracted a gunman. I mean, you can see so many things. It was, in fact, he was a Marine vet. He saluted the granddaughter. Did you see that one? Yeah. It's really, the other one too. And you can go to our Facebook site, see this. There was a firefighter and he was colorblind. So these guys on the team, they got him these special glasses that allow him to see color. So for the first time,
that was a good one.
That was a good one.
And he saw the flag. And he starts, he breaks down. I mean, you could break down when you watch it. So that's a whole enchiladas. George, tell us what a cocotazo is.
A cocotazo is when
He's got his lowrider outfit on.
Oh, man.
when you were small and you said something dumb or something, your mom would hit you in the back of your head, kind of on your noggin, and just kind of make you realize that you made a mistake. And then in Mexican, it's a chanclazo. They throw a chancla or a slipper right across the room and hit you. That was a little bit more intense. But hitting the back of your head kind of woke you up and just kind of.
Did you get a lot of them when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think that's why I misspell a lot of words and stuff.
No, but that's why I do the same thing.
And I always tease. My mom didn't do that because my dad just had to look at his belt or give us the mirada. He just looked at us. Oh yes, sir. I'm going to do whatever I got. I don't want to get in trouble at all. So I got a lot of cocotazo. One of the things we started to talk about, and we can talk about this more. You can weigh in on this, but I have to tell you, there's so many, man. Okay, first of all, I have to say we have to make fun of De Blasio. Did you see the video?
Oh yeah.
He sounds like a chipmunk.
He sounds like Alvin. Yeah, I saw that.
That was hysterical. That was hilarious. Also, Occasional Cortex. She wants to get rid of the Electoral College. Okay, that's one. And let me see. There was also a Democratic lawmaker. This was horrible. There was a mock Donald Trump assassination. That was really bad.
Yeah, that was. I thought that was sick.
That was sick. I think he actually apologized for that one. But here's one that I just found and we talked about it. San Francisco. Okay. All right. You know what? I've never been to San Francisco. I've flown over it.
Grew up in the Bay Area, so
Beautiful.
You like those
I
rules?
was just there a few weeks ago. It's a beautiful area, beautiful city, and it's heartbreaking to see what you see there.
It's suffering.
The homeless is ridiculous.
It's just horrible. But so the San Francisco Board of Supervisors says terms such as felon and inmate
Oh,
are a dehumanizing way of referring to individuals in criminal record. So what they're gonna do is, they decided we need some new terms, okay? So, like, instead of inmate, all right, then you should use the term currently incarcerated person. Rather than call a juvenile offender, the person should be described as a young person impacted by the justice system. And I'll give you another one.
He's not impacted, he did a crime.
So the term illegal alien was also scrubbed and replaced by person or individual. An addict or substance abuser will now be called a person with a history of substance abuse. So this is,
So what's the illegal alien called?
You need to call them a person or an individual.
Not an illegal, not an illegal.
No, that's okay. I'm
Go ahead.
So
I'm
this
gonna-
is, I'm gonna turn it over to Mosley because he has a different take on it.
I don't have okay.
Or a
This is
take on
very
this,
important.
excuse me.
When I ran for mayor, it was my wife is an obstetrician gynecologist here in Phoenix, and she is not just an OB, but she specializes in addiction medicine. So she deals with parenting and pregnant women with substance use disorder.
Substance use disorder.
So one of the things that one of the solutions to solving this opioid crisis that we all face and that hits our families is that we need to the first thing that anybody can do, you and I, is destigmatize the problem. Okay? A drug addict, that term addict is, we think of, when you hear a drug addict, you think of the person hiding in the
Shooting up
bushes.
with a needle. That's
Yeah.
what I think of.
You think of the person who's committing a crime. You think of the person in the shadows, right? You immediately, when you label somebody that, it's a negative connotation. And destigmatizing it is really person, place, or thing. Think of person, place, or thing. Don't label persons a thing. Label persons persons. So a drug addict is a thing. Instead, it's a person who happened to be a drug addict, who's personalize the person, not dehumanize it. Dehumanization is something that that a lot of totalitarian dictators use in their speech. They use it in Panama with Noriega. They use it all over the Middle East. They dehumanize the population first, and then they can do whatever they want with it, and people sympathize with it because you've already dehumanized that person. The rats, once you pull the human factor out of it, it's easy to commit atrocities. And so, right now in Arizona, we're trying to lower the recidivism rate, which is people who are incarcerated who get out and go back. If I told you it costs you $40,000 a year to keep somebody in prison, would you be like, hey, we need to put more people in prison? You pay for that, right? I mean, you have to.
For one person.
For one person.
So give them a job and just pay them the money.
So we want them to. We want to make them productive members of society. So
that's supposed to be the whole idea, right?
The idea is to lower the return back to prison, and it's really hard to give a person a job when they come out of prison and they are a felon. They may be a person who committed a crime and was convicted.
Right.
But once you're labeled felon, it's like the drug abuser. You're a drug addict. What about Alcoholics Anonymous? Those guys
they're addicts.
They're addicts. Do they walk around with an Alcoholic Anonymous hat on? No, we don't want to label those people because it's counterproductive. So I get what San Francisco's trying to do. I don't agree with some of the terms that they're using for it, but I get the humanization part.
Well, okay, and I'm glad you explained that. But it's like, for example, when they say, this one says, so instead of substance abuser, you're going to be called a person with a history of substance abuse. To me, that's the same thing. I mean, it's not necessarily, it's, once we start playing with the language, and you know what happens too, actually, I think, historically, if I call you a certain thing, eventually it's going to develop a bad connotation if it's a negative thing. also. So I get that, but I want to, I'm gonna let you get here in a second, but I want one question. I want to ask you, so your wife, the doctor, what are her preferred terms?
And it's very important in medicine when a doctor's treating a patient that they humanize the patient. You can't say you can't say the diabetic in room 3 because it completely pulled a human out of that person. You can say that the person in room 3 who has diabetes or who has a list of things.
Myra, so you wouldn't even say Myra the diabetic?
You would not say
You
that.
would say Myra who has diabetes.
And along with other things. You don't it is a reverse. It is a reverse, but you immediately have an image of something when you do the reverse.
What if you said she is diabetic? Because I mean, you refer
That's
that,
different. You're humanizing it first. The person is diabetic.
Because think about this.
She is diabetic versus the diabetic in room 3.
When you were talking about, like, you know, in my family, my mom and her brothers and sisters, once they developed like a seniors, they became diabetics.
Mhm.
And you would say, oh yeah, my Uncle Joe was a diabetic.
That's
Okay,
different
that's
than
interesting.
my diabetic Uncle Joe.
You're making me think about stuff. Okay, I'm sorry, I let you go. I just had
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I know,
What
right?
did you forget?
No,
It makes you think.
It makes you think.
And that's all I'm doing. Is just we need to think about these things.
but you still have a problem.
No, it doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't. So you still
have an
have a
addiction.
problem. You still have an addiction. You still have. All we're doing really is covering it up.
I mean, yes and no. The problem is you can't address a problem if you don't acknowledge it. And a lot of people in our society today don't acknowledge the opioid crisis because nobody in my family is an addict, which is not true. There are people who are addicts. We just don't call them addicts. We call them, he has a problem. We humanize our family, but outside the family, we don't humanize it.
And see, that's the problem. I got a family member that's an addict. He's an addict. I don't care. You're an addict. Face it. You have to face it. If the person you go and give him, that's a problem today. Before, if there was a problem, you confronted it. You dealt with it. Now we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to, even when it comes into religion, politics, whatever, like politicians. I've seen politicians go around, or even Republicans, and go around and round and round and round, and don't really get to the problem. They say, okay, this happened, and they cover it when it's like, okay, what would solve it? Well, this would solve it, just like Trump is saying. This is solving it. This is going to solve it. This is why we got to do this.
So you are saying, you know, let's not change things. So I want to take us quick because we always talk about the term illegal alien, which is a legitimate term. Now, when I was going to school back in the 70s, okay, that's how old I am, and that's when can't do that because when you say illegal alien, it makes it sound like an alien from outer space. So we have to call them, and George remembers this too, undocumented immigrants. And we thought, well, because if we call them something nice, it's going to make them nicer. But you know what? There really was nothing wrong with the term illegal alien. Alien just meant they were a foreigner. They weren't from here. But by doing that, I think we made it worse. I think all of a sudden we stigmatized that term illegal alien. You know, but it's all that means is you're now and then they call illegals. Well, yeah,
I don't see nothing wrong with saying undocumented immigrant because it means the same thing that they're illegal alien. It's
well, but you could argue that they aren't officially immigrants.
But it's a kinder way of saying it. That's
But-
all it is.
but-
It's a kinder way of saying it.
But kindness matters. And I'll give you a perfect example. Your wife will tell you it's not what you just said to me, husband. It's how you said it.
Oh, yes.
That we here as men hear that all the time from our wife. It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Right.
Tone matters, and if tone matters inside the house, it definitely matters outside the house.
But do you think it would lead to repetitiveness if you say an immigrant, an undocumented immigrant versus an illegal alien? You think that because you're not saying illegal alien, they may go across the border and come back faster, or will it be just the same?
No, I think this whole thing started with the San Francisco supervisors and them changing these terms. And what I was saying was that we need to be careful in the dehumanization of some of these terms. And we are all educated enough and smart enough to know what a dehumanization of a term is. And if we have, because I know of undocumented immigrants. I know them personally. I know who they are. I don't call them illegal
So you don't call them illegal aliens?
because
Well,
I
what if
know
they have
them.
documents?
They are illegal. They are illegal. I know who they are.
What if you call them
You know,
a foreigner who resides in this country illegally?
I mean, it
Is
doesn't
that
matter
any
what.
nicer?
I'm not saying it's nicer. I'm just saying that it's a personal. I personalize that person, so I don't call them that. But when I say illegal aliens, I mean everybody else. You see what I mean? And the tone matters. What the words matter.
Okay, and when you say illegal aliens, you say illegal aliens. Point blank, they're legal. There's no answers or buts, correct?
I agree.
Okay. So why am I going to say, if I'm going to say illegal alien, and you say illegal alien, anybody in this out there says illegal aliens, it ain't pertaining to me. I know for a fact it ain't pertaining to me. I know for a fact it ain't pertaining to my family. Okay, I know there's some, just like you said. There is some out there that are illegal, and I know them, and I know who they are. Okay, and I've told them, and I've said with them and talked to them, you need to go get your paperwork done.
So Sid, so you prefer to use undocumented immigrants? That's what you prefer to use?
I prefer to use undocumented immigrants, but I also prefer.
So you will not use the term illegal?
No, I didn't say that either. I mean, I know personally when I use the term illegal aliens, I'm talking about somebody I don't know. Versus, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know this person. I'm talking about a group of people who broke the law, who crossed the border, some of them for a great life and a better life, some of them to commit crime and atrocities, right? These are people that I don't know. But the people who I've met in my lifetime, who I've known throughout my lifetime, who are illegal, I don't talk about them as illegal, even though they are. I talk about them as undocumented immigrants.
Interesting, but see, you would just call them illegal aliens.
And I will.
And I would too, because that's what.
That's what it is, and at the same time, they know it. They're not hiding. The people I know, they know it. They know they're illegal, and they know that they're going through the shadows. They're going through this, and they're going through that. I know they're illegal, and I'm going to say you got to get something done. Here's what I suggest. Go see somebody. Go get your turn. Go get your papers fixed. Go get this way, because you know why? This way you become legal. You become legal. You're here, and you stand for what it is, America. What is the United States? Okay.
And I think we agree on that. I just think that terms matter, words matter. You know, there is a difference between being black and African American. There's a difference between a Chicano and a Hispanic. There's a difference between brown pride. There are differences, and you know what? There are also similarities. Some of them overlap. Some of them matter. I know Mexicans will say, I'm not Hispanic. I'm a Chicano.
It's just
But
like
words matter.
It gets very complicated after a while. You have to have like a little
As
resume.
long
How is
as
this?
I think, as long as you don't dehumanize a person, I think we'll be in a better place.
And there was
Specifically with felons.
There was also an article about using specific pronouns, and there was someone who got in trouble because he told this transgender person, no, I am not going to use that particular pronoun. I'm not going to do that. And he did get in trouble. But I want to leave that because we just have a few minutes and we're kind of going over. But I really want to address the president, because we want to talk politics. The president, I believe he's thinking about doing this and getting rid of the birthright citizenship. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so like right now, and this used to happen. I grew up in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I lived in El Paso, right there at the border. And what would happen, even back then, a long time ago, a woman was going to have a baby. She'd rush over on the United States side to have her baby, because that way the baby would be an American citizen. I mean, people still love our country. They still want to do that. So his proposal, and if I have this wrong, let me know, is say, you know what, that's not necessarily going to be the case anymore. We might have to take that to the Supreme Court. Who knows? Because some people have said, okay, you know what, one parent has to be an American citizen. So even if the kid's born here, one person has to be legally an American, and then you can get your citizenship. Anyway, thoughts on that?
Well, my sister got birthright citizenship. I mean, and we're about as patriotic and as Republican and as Reagan-esque as any family
But
in
how did
America.
that happen?
Well, my parents, when we moved to America, I was 5, my little sister was 1, and 5 years later, they had my baby sister, who was born in America
They were
as a
legally
citizen.
residing
They
in
were
the
legally
United-
residing
Your
in the
family
United
was
States.
legal.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay,
If
but she got birthright
And she got
citizenship
birthright
that
citizenship.
route.
Now, see, that could be a stipulation.
They didn't become U.S. citizens for another 6 years after that. So my baby sister was the first U.S. citizen. Then my parents became citizens, and me and my sister, because we were under 18, were naturalized
They were
citizens.
naturalized.
Yes.
But they were legally in this country.
They
So
were.
that could be, I mean, I don't know that they figured out the details yet. Your thoughts? I mean, really? I hate that we even have to do this.
It's
I
yeah.
don't like that we have
I
to do
can
this.
I can understand because your life was kind of like mine. My father, being from Mexico, came here legally. Met my mom, married my mom, had us. Okay, so I understand. But our scenario was kind of a different. We in turn, and I think I told the story. We in turn, since we had a Hispanic father, Mexican father, we believe we had two citizenships, two dual citizenship, Mexico and here. We loved Mexico. We were going to do their flag, be their flag, and yeah, America, okay. Until my father one day
I love this story.
hold on, because I was going to go put American flag in the car. And he said, he says, hey, hold on, son, where are you going with that? I said, I'm going to go put it in my car because that's who I am. That's my heritage.
You mean
That's
Mexican flag, you said
Mexican flag.
American.
Yeah, Mexican flag. Sorry,
Whatever.
Mexican flag. I'm going to go put that in because that's who we are. That represents us. That's who we are. He says, no, it isn't. He goes, is my flag. That's still my flag yet because I'm here, yes,
It's from Mexico.
but I'm from there. So yeah, that's kind of my flag, but not really. I'm working on it. And 2, he says, but that's not your flag. Your flag is the red, white, and blue. That's your flag. Why is that, Dad? Because you were born here, you were raised here, and you're an American. So, me,
Birthright citizenship.
there's right citizenship.
Well, but again, your
But
father
again,
was
my
here
father
legal.
legally. Now, if you're here illegally, or you come like you just say, you come just to have the kid, your baby across the border, see, it's hard because I know of a lot of people that were just like my father. They wanted a better life. They came for a better life. They came for whatever, but they did it legally. And there's a lot of people out there that are that way. They're American. But sometimes we get put in this quote unquote illegal group.
Oh, the terms again.
Yeah, terms. So the term is, and that's the term. We're not that way. Don't consider us that. So, but even though they give us the terms and give me the term, you're illegal. And I've heard it. You must be illegal because you're Mexican. No, I'm not.
Somebody's
legal.
actually told you that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've gotten the same thing.
I'm not. I'm fine. But does it offend me? Or does it go? No. I'm going to fight back because you know what? You're wrong. Okay? You're wrong. If I was wrong, I'm gonna say, hey, you know what? You're right. You came up with the facts. You came up. I can't debate that.
He's right.
You're right.
Not offended.
You know,
Not offended. But it happens.
it happens.
And also, it's not just from south of the border, because there was a whole thing about, I think it was Chinese
Mhm.
or Asian people, say, and I think it was specifically China, so I say Chinese, but they would pay large amounts of money. The woman would come here to have the baby, so the baby would be American. And again, it's so sad that we have to even do this, right?
Right.
But you know why it's even being considered? Because it's been so long and it's so out of whack and it's such a big problem. So I think that's why President Trump is bringing it up at this point. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
I think it's what has happened. I say the president because it's like any other thing that the president's been doing. Nobody, past presidents or past administrations, have never taken care of the problem.
Yeah, they never addressed it.
And they just wash it, and that's what I've been talking about. That politicians there that have been washing it up. And now we got a president that says, no, I'm not gonna wash it out. I'm not gonna wash it, I'm not gonna do it, we're gonna solve it. And here's the problem that we're
Looking
gonna solve.
for solutions.
And that's the solution. Even though it's going to hurt someone, but now the liberals come out and say, wait, you're hurting those people, you're hurting that, no, you can't do that, let's use this name, let's use, no, because you got that, no, you can't do it. But they're the first ones to come in and say, to do it. Passed before. When it came to walls, when it came to funding, when it came to illegals, they were way before even President Trump, they were for it. And now that we have a president that is taking care of the issue and taking care of it and taking care of the way with executive orders or whatever he has to do to solve the problem, now the liberals are crying foul.
It's always fascinating. George, you want to weigh in before we wrap up the show?
No, I just wanted to mention a couple of people that have tuned in. Carolyn Leff.
Hi, Carolyn.
She's watching. Jorge Garzon from Orlando, Florida is watching us.
Howdy.
He says, keep up the great work.
Come visit.
Also, Duncan Gillord is watching. He says hi.
Hey, Duncan.
Israel Aguilera is watching.
You speak Spanish, Jorge.
Christina Naomi Miller is watching. Veronica Coran. 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 That's a weird one. Great job, you
Don't
guys.
dehumanize her.
Matthew Kenny is watching. Charlie Carpenter is watching. He says yes on 105 and 106.
Yeah, baby.
He totally agrees with you. Thank you. And then Charlie Carpenter says, with one parent, a citizen.
With one
So
parent.
those are just a few people across the spectrum that are watching us, and I thought I'd acknowledge
Well,
it.
thanks for sharing that. And Chipsters, thanks for all your support. I want to thank our special guests.
Thank you.
We have Sid de la Fuente from Calo, Conservative American Latino Organization, Jesse Romero in
Jesse
September.
Romero on September 25th. Don't forget.
We'll keep doing that. Come back to the show and promote it again.
Yeah, promote it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moses Sanchez, Phoenix Narrative. Subscribe.
Yes,
You're
subscribe.
gonna love it. Come back again.
Absolutely.
And you know,
Yeah, let
there's
us know
so
the
many
progress.
issues that we keep working on, and as good conservatives, that's what we want to do. We want to solve our problems because they just keep growing, and it creates more messes. We don't need that. We don't need that.
Yes.
I'm Alice Lara. Don Jorge.
Don Jorge behind the
No, here's
scenes
the-
here.
Okay.
Don Jorge.
Behind the scenes with my hat.
Right
Right
on.
on.
And then
Right on.
remember, next week we're not going to have a show. We'll do some reruns and stuff. We'll be gone. But the following, starting September again. See you in September.
We'll be back in September.
We'll be back. Anything else, George, before we say goodbye?
Happy Labor Day for those people
Yes.
that are
Oh,
celebrating barbecuing. Be careful. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Don't leave pets alone in your vehicles. Watch your kids around water is very important because they're going to gravitate towards the pools on Labor Day. It's going to be a warm Labor Day
We broke
weekend.
some records.
Yes.
Key records.
So just be careful. Be a good parent and watch other kids, other parents' kids too.
On that note, too, watch the elderly. Watch them.
Yes.
Check in on your parents. Check in on your elderly friends.
Check
And
in
check
on
them
me.
on how they're doing.
Your Don Jorge's and your
And-
Doñas. Pretty soon I'm going to have to be called Doña.
Don Jorge Alacran.
Anyways, you guys are great guests. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having
It's a
us.
pleasure.
Thank you for having
Enjoy
me.
it.
And thanks to Party for letting us
Thank you.
have fun here.
Stays the GOP. So walk on. Have a wonderful rest of the night and week. We'll see you
Enjoy
in
the holiday.
September. But keep on the Facebook site. Take care. Bye bye.
I'll give you
Okay, yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, go.
Thank you. For
I gotta
coming.
go. My wife has been. She called 3 times. She never
Oh.
calls 3 times. Two-tone matters. I gotta be like, I can't be like, honey, what are you calling me for? I gotta be like, honey,